Welcome to the channel. This is Daisy X Machina, the drag queen detective who investigates all things speculative in science fiction, fantasy, and horror. Well, I get into drag to film a video later today. And we have Lori, yay! And we have Frank, yay! This is an intimate trio. I'm surprised not to see Lynette. I'm so used to seeing Lynette here, but I'm so glad you guys have showed up. And the question is, how is your reading going this week? For me, it's not that interesting. I've been reading middle grade books, and I found a middle grade spooky story that's actually spooky. Because usually they're just, well, I guess you have the goosebumps, and a lot of the stories now, the kids are like really snarky or it's not that scary, but of course they're written for kids. But anyway, this one book called, or series called Whispering Pines by a, who wrote it? Let me look it up. Oh, Lynette's here. Yay. We were just talking about you, Lynette. Thank you for joining us. Talking about Whispering Pines, a actual scary middle grade series written by Heidi Lang and Katie Bartkowski, and I believe they're sisters, and it reminds me a lot of Stranger Things, and I am loving this series. I was just going to read the first book, but it was so good I picked up the second one. But of course you have to like children's books to get into those. Okay, we are reading. For Lori, it's been mostly slumpy this week. Reading The Mars Room by Rachel Kushner. Pretty good. Is that science fiction? Sounds science fiction. Okay, so I actually got new palettes. I wasn't going to do this. Oh gosh. But I got this, I guess I'm on the Beauty Bay mailing list. And there's this palette, which is a rainbow palette. Normally goes for like $40, and it was on sale for $28. And I was like, yeah, I'm not going to get it. And then I read down, and you could either buy this one palette for $28 or buy these two palettes for $25. So these two were less than just this one. And I knew maybe I got suckered into it, but I bought two palettes. And this one was a rainbow. And this one is mostly browns. Oops, face it. Browns and reds, like a sort of an autumny browns and autumn colors. But there are reds in this one, so I have a lot of red. So I thought today I'll do a red or a sunset look. Okay, I'm sure you are not interested in that. Lynette finished. Oh, the new Bobiverse book got a 4.5 out of 5. That's good. Mooney is here, yay. It's more like Orange is the New Black on steroids. Oh, okay, so Mars Room is a prison story with women, I assume. Also read 4 short books. Visiting friends who can't join. Well, thank you so much for saying hi, Moody. Including Shakespeare, Star Wars, The Jedi Doth Return. Oh, is that one of your shorts? Love the title. Friends are more important. Yes, visit your friends, although I hope we all consider each other friends here too. Okay, so I was going to do a sunset look. I think I'm going to freehand map it out. Should I do that? Yeah, I was just saying to my writing group, we meet twice a month, that I'm trying to write a children's horror, but it's not often you find a children's book that's actually scary or spooky. But that's what I got in Whispering Pines. Yeah, I don't know why I decided to freehand this, but so far. Okay. Let's go ahead and okay, so basically I just mapped out what I want to do. Night Guest, which is an Icelandic horror novella that wasn't very scary. Ever been to I've never been to Iceland. So Iceland is the one that's actually green, and Greenland's the one that's actually icy. That's all I remember. I would love to go to Iceland when I was younger, but I could not afford it. Does it have river worms? Nowadays, Iceland is too touristy. Like Venice is overrun with tourists. Yeah, I've heard a lot about that in Venice because years ago, Dennis and I went on our European trip. I don't know why I just did that. We went on a European vacation. It was like once in a lifetime thing. But we were in Rome and we were thinking about going to Venice. And we heard a lot of things about how touristy it is. And we ended up going to Pompeii, which was amazing. If you're ever in Rome, take a side trip to Pompeii. Two tectonic plates meet in the middle of Iceland. Okay, so we're going to do sunset. So I think I'm going to just do sort of a brownish orange up here, and I'll do the sunset in the cut crease. Mm. Okay. Gosh, there's so many orangey colors. So orange brown. That's what I'm thinking. Mm. So I did see Rings of Power last night. And like I said before, I really like the Hobbits, which are basically female versions of Frodo and Sam. There could be sort of a sapphic um, B plot, which doesn't bother me. Um, but this week, no hobbits. The one thing I kind of liked the dwarves too, but the things about the hobbits and the dwarves in this is that you don't have the characters that you do, that you recognize in with the elves, with Galadriel and Elrond. And I was thinking about why it's just not working for me. One thing is they're changing the lore, which I'm not a big fan of, but I think the thing for me though is that the elves just don't feel like elves. In the Peter Jackson movies, he loved Lord of the Rings, and there was this combination with the writing and the directing and the actors that really nailed sort of the elves, the Galadriel and Elrond, and there's just something about them that felt very elvish. And this one, Rings of Power, they just are too human. And I get it. It's in order to relate to the characters, you want them to be human, to be relatable, but I don't know. Lots of volcanoes in Iceland. Nice wall, fresh art in Pompeii. Fresh art? Fresco art. There we go. Yes. Yeah. It's just so amazing how big Pompeii is. You hear about it and you don't realize, and intellectually, it's a city, but it's a big city. My friend wants me to go to New Zealand with her, but she doesn't want to go to Hobbiton. Oh, I would want to go. Female version of Ghostbusters flopped. Yeah, but there is another good one with kids. It's just called Ghostbusters. The new generation. I don't know what it's called, but it has that one kid, Wolf something. The main in Stranger Things is in this Ghostbusters. And there's two movies. The second one's not that great, but the first one's really good. And it has callbacks to like Dan Aykroyd. The female version, that was really missing, I thought, is they didn't have any connection to the old Ghostbusters. But anyway, this other one with the kids really is, I think, it felt to me like a love letter to Harold Ramis, one of the main writers and actors, sort of the nerdy guy with the glasses in the original Ghostbusters. It felt kind of like a love letter to him. I enjoyed it a lot. Recommended a lot more than the one with the all-female cast. Is Gandalf still with the hobbits? No, well, I don't know. Well, we didn't see any of that this week, but I think they split up last week, but I'm sure they're going to rejoin. Lex is here. Hey, Lex, thank you for joining. Galadriel is insufferable. She's so not the Galadriel I think of. Haven't looked at the second. There's really no reason to. I mean, I'm just a big Lord of the Rings and fantasy nerd, so I am going to watch it no matter how bad it is. Nothing worse than an insufferable old man. No, Galadriel's a woman. The Gandalf character, we're guessing it's Gandalf, is just sort of, he doesn't have his memories. He's not really what I think of as a wizard anyway. They finished filming Night of the Seven Kingdoms. We're talking about volcanoes again. I live right next to one. Hey, Lex, you're in Hawaii, I assume? Okay, so we did this darkish orange, so let me go lighter. But I'm not used to having so many different shades of the same color. Let's go brighter. What did I see? I saw something on Netflix that was speculative. Oh, it's Uglies, obviously based on a young adult dystopian. Kind of an interesting premise that this future society, it's mandatory to have plastic surgery to become beautiful in order that no one feels bad or something, that everyone's on the same playing field as far as looks are concerned. And it's mandatory to get this plastic surgery when you turn, so I'm going to go here to white. When you turn 16, it's okay. I like the concept more than the movie, but it's obviously, I looked it up afterwards, obviously a young adult storyline. Okay, I need a lighter orange to blend this out. I'm in Tacoma, Washington, Mount Rainier. Gosh, I remember when Mount St. Helens erupted. Is that the 80s or 70s? But that was such a big thing. Because no one was expecting it. Is it Rainier, the pilot that saw those flying saucers? I'm sure they're everywhere. Okay. So now I'm going with the light orange to Okay. Can see it out your apartment window. I'm going to have a category of book movie in my challenge next year. I'm looking for suggestions. So a book movie combination. That's kind of fun. Looks like Mount Fuji. So Lynette, are you only doing films, or can you do like a mini series? I don't know if you read young adult, but Uglies is young adult. I'll tell you my favorite. One of my favorite movies is Travels with My Aunt. And the movie was in the early 70s, mid 70s, a very early Maggie Smith movie with, and it has, shoot, I forgot the name of the actor. Anyway, it's one of my favorite movies. And it's based on a novel. This is not science fiction or speculative, but it's based on the novel by Graham Greene. And it's one of the few cases where I like the movie a lot more than I do the novel. Age of Innocence. Martin Scorsese. I would prefer movies, but I might do one miniseries. I can't do Knights of the Seven Kingdom as I have already read the book. Vanessa Redgrave. Haven't seen Age of Innocence. Oh, and of course, thinking with Travels with My Aunt. If you haven't read the Patrick Dennis Auntie Mame book. Okay. So, is there even darker orange? I would like. Not really. Right. It's orangey brown, just okay. I like Big Fish the movie more than the book. Same with Children of Men movie, much better than the book. I'm sure I'd have more recommendations if I could think about it more. Of course, there are cases of movies that the book came after. The book was adapted from the movies. Like Star Wars was adapted by Alan Dean Foster, as well as the movie Alien, which I've read both. I don't do that anymore, but I remember as a kid or a teenager, I would always like pick up the book for my favorite movie if I hadn't read it yet. Okay. I can't do Never Ending Stories. I've seen the movie so many times next to my children. That's such a great movie. Sigourney Weaver in the new. I don't know. I don't know. I haven't seen it yet. I was thinking about seeing it, but it takes a lot for me to go to the movies. Rereading Vampire Hunter D. I love reading those books. Is that a novel or a graphic novel? Love Sigourney, even though she's older than I am now. I don't tend to, on a whole, like books that are adapted for movies. Well, Ellen Dean Foster was the king of that. And I would say that they're not great books, but they do capture the fun of the movie. So I always thought Ellen Dean Foster's adaptations were fun. Okay. So we're going to start. Okay, we're going to start with yellow and go to red. I have both the novel and manga of Vampire Hunter D, plus this PlayStation game. Oh, I didn't know it was both a manga and a novel. I just thought it was manga. Learned something new. Okay, so I'm going to go. Hopefully, this is a bright orange. I'm telling you, if you have HBO, or not HBO, if you have Netflix, you got to see the Scavenger Rain, great animated TV show. Rain spelled Reign. So I stopped subscribing to HBO after House of the Dragons, and I figured I'll just start again next year when it comes on, because that's the only series I really like. But I heard the HBO is going to redo Salem's Lot, the Stephen King vampire novel, and I kind of want to see that. I may have to. Resubscribe to HBO just to see Salem's Lot. I really like the made-for-TV version of Salem's Lot from the 70s. I think it was the 70s. For a while, it seemed like they were doing so many TV adaptations of King's books. Okay, I'm going to try even a darker red. And I'm going to try a little bit of this sparkly yellow on the inner corner. My son's brilliant suggestion was Horton Hears a Who. All I remember that is Carol Burnett was one of the characters in the movie version. But you can't beat the original. I think it's an half-hour animated Lorax show is the best Seuss adaptation. Wife has never seen Vampire Hunter D, but Bloodlust. But we are going to watch it when she gets home. Yay, that sounds fun. Yeah, the Lorax. Dr. Seuss taught me to read. Probably me too. Yes, Lori knows the Lorax. They remade it into I want to say stop animation or 3D. It wasn't very good because they had to make it into a 90-minute movie, but the Lorax really, you could read it in a half hour, which is about as long as the show should be. Vampires are kind of tiresome for me, though I heard that Buffy TV show is pretty funny. Yeah, I kind of missed the train with Buffy because I know so many people who love it, and I probably would have loved it if I stuck with it, but I only caught a couple episodes. Lynette, you've never read the Lorax. Okay, that should definitely be on your list. The Butter Battle book, yes, I love that concept. Well, one side, butters are bread on the top, and the other side, butters are bread on the bottom. Which one is right? It's such like a allegory of like religious wars and something that doesn't really make a difference. The snitches, stars on its belly. I don't remember that one. I remember the name Snitches, but who, Dr. Seuss? I heard he didn't really like children that much, like to be around children. He just like writing for them. But I didn't hear he wasn't a nice person. Oh, but he did famously write the screenplay of one of the worst movies ever done. I don't think it was ever a book though, but the Thousand Fingers, a Doctor something or other. I tried watching it once and it's really bad, really bad. PC people. That's something else. That's about some of his characters aren't very sensitive to different cultures, you know. But that doesn't have anything to do with whether he was a nice person or not. Write one in. Don't know that one. Yeah, I really don't remember many picture books I've read as a child. Okay, let's see if this is sparkly. I mean, it is. It's just you can't really see it. And I have the sparkly orange. Might as well. Might as well. Okay. So I think that's what I'm going to do. It's mostly all matte. That's fine. My eyes are all aflame. Yeah, it's either the flame look or I'm calling it the sunset look. But it's going to hopefully make more sense once I add the black, which I'm going to do right now. So this week, or today, I'm planning to do another volume of my top 100 fantasy writers. And of course, this week I released the next volume in the science fiction writers. And Lynette, I didn't realize until you wrote that comment how much science fiction you read in the 80s. I mean, I know you were a fan of science fiction, but I didn't know that you were that much of a fan in the 80s. Lynette had commented that she read like 80 books a year, 80 science fiction books a year at one point. I really do think there was a lot more science fiction in the 70s and 80s than there, and before, but I wasn't really reading in the 60s. But my memory was that was sort of the science fiction heyday, at least for novels. Called it Flame Sunset. Yes, Lex. I have Dr. Seuss biography on my wish list, but I think I'd rather read the Edward Lear bio. Well, you switched to fantasy. I don't think she did. I used to go to book buy and exchange shop and look for sci-fi books. You could return books, but only get half of the value back. Yeah. Well, they have to make money somehow. I've always been one of those weirdos that likes buying new books, which can be pretty expensive. I'm also one of the weirdos that only buys one book at a time. So I don't really have a TBR. I don't like go to a bookstore. I didn't um, buy like a whole bunch of books like some people do. One of the reasons being it gives me another excuse to go back to the bookstore because I love browsing, or I used to love browsing for books. But it's weird because right now I'm in a situation where I have books I need to read because I've bought them. I have Impossible Creatures and Flavia Deleuze, and I really want to read them this month, but I just got mesmerized by this Whispering Pine series. Okay. We used to have something like that. The lady who owned the shop said her main profit was from romance. What a surprise. It's not a surprise. I only read a few fantasy books a year. Read about 5 or 6 times more sci-fi than fantasy. Used to have good used bookstore within walking distance, but they moved or folded. Read about the same amount as mysteries as sci-fi. I'm going to read the severest book by Stevenson, the severest. Cryptonomicon, maybe. He has a new book out, doesn't he? Okay. Okay. Seven Neves. Is that a book? He must sleep under his desk. All his books are at least 700 pages. Neil Stevenson, are we talking about? Because Snow Crash wasn't that long, I'm sure. We still have a couple of good secondhand bookshops, but they're on the other, excuse me, on the other side of the river, so I don't visit them much. Never read any Stevenson. Wow. The Derwent River divides the city of Hobart in Tasmania. Yeah, I haven't visited a used bookstore in Las Vegas yet. I remember when I lived in San Francisco. I lived on around Church Street Market, if you know the area. But there were one, two, within like 5 blocks. And 1 block away, there was 2 used bookstores. And then there was like another there were at least 6 used bookstores around where I lived. This was like the 90s. They're all gone now. They're all gone. It's really a shame what Amazon has done to the book industry. Okay. So underneath the eyes, we'll go with orange. Actually, I need to brush this bake off. Snow Crash was one of the few shorter ones. SF has totally gone to hell. I really do miss, I mean, I'm not going to argue whether it's gone to hell or not, but I do really miss the older, I moved there in 1989. Just in time for something called the Loma Prieta earthquake, one of the big earthquakes in San Francisco. But yeah, I do miss how it used to be. It really has changed quite a bit. And I personally blame that on all the money that has come in from Silicon Valley. Because it used to be that there were affordable, low rent, kind of sketchy neighborhoods that just aren't there anymore. Because the price of housing is just gone bananas. Okay. I am grateful for Amazon because it used to be hard to get certain books before online shopping. Our population is too small to have a good choice. There's still a lot of old sci-fi they have not yet read. Amazon does have some good points. Try to buy other online shops before Amazon. I like the online secondhand bookshops. Yeah, I've gotten stuck with Kindle. Well, not stuck isn't the right word, but the other thing I really like about Amazon is almost everything you can preview, like the first chapter or first couple pages, which I find really useful if I am like browsing or trying to decide. Because obviously, if you're in a bookstore, you can do the same thing for however many pages you want. Did I ever tell you one of my first adult books was Jaws by Peter Benchley, which I read in this grocery store. Every time we would go to the grocery store, I would just hang out the rack, and they always had a copy in the I think they have one of those, what do you call it, carousels with books on it. But I didn't think my parents would buy the book for me because it had a naked woman on it. That you could barely see her, but she was like swimming there in front of the shark. But yeah, I was taken to see Jaws by my godparents' kids, and I was way too young. That movie did scar me in fifth grade. Whatever. How old is fifth grade? 10, 11? Oh shoot. Housing has gone up everywhere. I like online. Okay. One of the books I found in a little library was The Man Who Refused to Die, and I read this week. What are we talking about? San Francisco? I read it 50 years ago. I think I got it out of the library and always remembered it. Loved Jaws when I was about 20 or 21. It is true about a group of Cook Islanders who got lost at sea and drifted for 2 months. Yeah, I remember when I saw Jaws. Oh, do you mean red Jaws at the supermarket? Um, but I remember when I saw it, it was such, people don't know this, but it was such a big event that there were kids going like multiple times, like trying to see how many times they could see Jaws. Of course, I'm sure movies were a lot cheaper back then. But like people were seeing it like a dozen times in a row. Okay, I think we're done with the eyes. Yeah, but to this day, I can't be like swimming in the ocean and not have my mind eventually go, well, I wonder what's under me. But when I was young, I was like that even in a swimming pool. What if someone put a shark in a swimming pool? Okay, let's do lips. The other book I read in a grocery store was National Lampoon's spoof of Lord of the Rings called Board of the Rings. And I didn't think my parents would allow me that one because it had a pig on it with boobs or something, something strange. Oh, my first adult novel I've read when I was like, I think 8, was a Mrs. Polifax novel that we had in the house. And I was so proud of myself for reading an adult book. But I believe the first Miss Polifax novel, Lynette, was made into a movie with Rosalind Russell in the 60s. I don't think it's considered very good, but it, it would match your reading challenge. The premise was this woman, her husband just died, and her kids are grown up. She's older, and she decides she wants to become a spy, so she just goes into the CIA. Says, "Give me a job. I'll be a perfect spy." And they just happen to need a courier for some case. that it's supposed to be like a super easy little thing that they figure anyone can do, but of course it turns into this big global espionage situation. I remember that one guy in Australia who had lost his arm to a shark, hated the movie because he said it gave the wrong impression of sharks. Oh, my grandfather, my father's father, was a shark fisherman in the, gosh, like back in the 30s and 40s. And back then, they would fish and hunt for sharks, I think just for the liver, just for like vitamin D. And then it was artificially created or developed. And the whole shark industry just imploded because no one needed vitamin D from sharks anymore. But anyway, he had like these drawers of shark teeth and pictures of sharks and all these stories about sharks. And he was not a big fan of Jaws either. Okay. So these are the lips. So we're making good time today. Oh, I need eyelashes. You almost got me. I guess you guys haven't seen it. What are we talking about? Rodney Fox, and he didn't lose his arm. His bio says his attack is regarded as one of the most severe ever to be survived. Wow. 462 stitches in his chest, right hand and arm. Attacked by a great white. Young girl in the U.S. had her arm bitten off by a shark. Bethany Hamilton, as soon as she was out of the hospital, she was back on the beach with her bikini. What a trooper. I do appreciate that. Okay, eyelashes. Yeah, was Jaws like the first blockbuster? It's the first one I remember where people were just like seeing it over and over again. Then, of course, there was Star Wars. Because I was in middle school when that came out. I remember getting my stepmother to take me to see Star Wars. And it was packed. It was packed. And we didn't eat lunch, so she went to Burger King. And in her bag, she had like a whole meal. She had like Cokes, hamburgers, French fries. I was so embarrassed because as soon as she cracked it open, the entire theater was filled with the smell of hamburgers. But I ate it. But after Star Wars came out, quickly followed by another movie called Battle Beyond the Stars, which, of course, I thought would be the next Star Wars. It wasn't, but it was. It had John Boy Walton in it, and my father was a big fan of John Boy. And then there was another actor, I think, Robert Vaughn. And so we got my father to take us to see Battle Beyond the Stars in the drive-in theater. And I think that's probably the last drive-in movie I remember ever seeing. But my father didn't go to the theaters because you couldn't smoke in the theaters, and he was like a chain smoker. Which, by the way, didn't stop him from smoking in a theater. He'd go to the theater and start smoking until someone told him to stop. Okay. But when I first moved to San Francisco, talking about San Francisco, there was a theater you could smoke in. And that was like late 80s. And that was a time when on airplanes you had the smoking section, smoking or non-smoking, which was just divided by a little curtain. Okay, so now the makeup is done. Don't get many shark attacks in Tasmania, an occasional one every few years. Haven't been to the beach in a long time, partly because my skin is pale and I end up getting really bad sunburns. Yeah, you should definitely cover up if you have pale skin. Our most dangerous creature is the jackjumper ant. Wow, which caused more deaths than snakes and sharks combined. But no deaths since the antivenom became available. Oh, that's... And do they actually jump? What a nightmare. Little insects that jump and can kill you. Ah! Now people can be desensitized. Please don't remind me of old greasy BK, Burger King. Oh gosh, they can jump and are aggressive. Don't miss my Benson hedges. I have to tell you, because I was a heavy smoker for many years, I still miss it. If they develop a cigarette that is safe to smoke, anyway. Okay. Jewelry. Oops. That's one thing that has culturally changed so much, smoking. Oops. They used to have ashtrays in the seat arms in the cinemas. Gave up smoking 32 years ago. Used to be enabled to smoke on buses and planes. Or used to be able to. Yeah, people now just don't get how prevalent it used to be. And who was it that called this the Peggy Bundy? I didn't even think about Peggy Bundy when I got this wig and even wore it the first time. But then someone said Peggy Bundy, and I was like, you're right. It's totally a Peggy Bundy wig. What am I doing? Oh, there we go. Put that on sideways. Here we go. It's like something's wrong. Something doesn't feel right. God, I look pale. Ah, well. Grabbing some gloves. Yeah, so this wig will be my Peggy. Extra. I have 2 rings today. Okay, guys, so this is the final look. It is the, I went with this sunset, hopefully a sunset look. Actually, it has some pink in it. I didn't even notice the pink. But anyway, that's fine. Okay, so I will be back next week. I'm filming today another episode of the top 100 fantasy books, and I should be releasing next week one of these books in the fantasy series, and I should be back next week, and I hope to see you then. Thank you so much for coming, and as usual, may all the books you read be blessed.